To truly understand why there are still those who deny evolution, one must listen to their arguments. I will explain why two videos by Joshua Feuerstein, an evangelist with a little over 1 million likes on Facebook, are wrong. His first video has been viewed over 65 million times, as stated in his second video. It has been liked by 13,000 people and has been shared 200,000 times through Facebook.
Hey guys, Josh Feuerstein here. You know, the other day I had an atheist tell me that I was an idiot, moronic, and stupid for believing in God, that he created this world, because it took way too much faith to believe in a process like that, while he believed in what he called the science of evolution. Well, let's go ahead and let's do this. Dear Mr. Atheist, first of all, let me correct you. Because evolution is not a science, never has, and never will be. Why? Because it cannot fit within the parameters and parentheses of science for one simple reason. It was never observed.
Josh says that evolution has not been observed, but that is just untrue. There is experimental evolution, which makes use of organisms with rapid generation times and small physical size, often microbes, to observe phenomena that in large multicellular organisms occur too slowly. Richard Lenski's E. coli experiment is a fine example, and if you navigate to this website, there is a long list of different labs working in the field. Even artificial selection is observed evolution. This includes, but is not limited to, selective breeding of pigeons, dogs, and corn.
That's why it's not science. That's why it's called the theory of evolution. One man's theory.
Here we have a response from Berkeley to this common argument. It just tells us that to be accepted by the scientific community, a theory, in the scientific sense of the word, must be strongly supported by many different lines of evidence. A theory in the regular sense is almost the opposite of what it means to a scientist.
Now, let me show you how much faith it really takes to believe in evolution. You want me to believe that in some accidental cosmic bang, that out of that was created one cell, and from that one cell that all life springs, every plant, every animal, every single human being, and that somewhere along the way over years and years we mysteriously and magically all develop different wills, and we all develop different characteristics and traits, all because we willed it in our...
Josh makes the mistake of saying that evolution occurred because we willed it in our head. Evolution does not happen because an organism wills it, but instead it is an accumulation of slight variation through the generations without foresight.
I mean, you really think that everything came from one single cell? How much faith does that take? Now, I realize that you say that evolution is in science. And yet, if we go back to science, the one thing that science demands, maybe you've heard of something called the law of thermodynamics, which means that chaos can never produce order. Look at the world that we live in. The sun goes up, the moon comes out, we travel around the sun, we have years, we have days, we have seasons, the tide comes in and out. Everything works like a clock. It has order. And yet, you cannot argue that a world that has order came out of an accident, because it defies the very logic and laws of science.
While he does not explicitly tell us which thermodynamic law he is speaking of, we can deduce that it is the second one. Now, the second law of thermodynamics does not state that chaos can never produce order. However, it does say that the entropy of any isolated system never decreases. An isolated system evolves towards thermodynamic equilibrium, the state of maximum entropy of the system. This law does not even apply to Earth, since it is not an isolated system. Earth is technically an open system because meteors and asteroids can enter, but those occurrences are rare and it is usually considered closed, but not isolated.
You see, you think it takes a lot of faith for me to believe in a God that created this world, a God that created order, and yet, what if I were to tell you that somewhere in Oklahoma a tornado rolls through a junkyard full of a bunch of old cars, and somewhere on the other side of that tornado, out of that junk pile, it magically produces a perfectly red, shiny, working Lamborghini? You would tell me I was nuts. You would tell me that I had lost it. You would probably try to admit me into the psychiatric ward. Why? Because that is absolutely stupid. I mean, how much faith would it really take to believe something as idiotic as that? And yet that's exactly what science believes.
The original quote by Fred Hoyle actually goes like this: "A junkyard contains all the bits and pieces of a Boeing 747, dismembered and in disarray. A whirlwind happens to blow through the yard. What is the chance that after its passage a fully assembled 747, ready to fly, will be found standing there?" The next clip featuring Richard Dawkins, will show why this is a faulty argument.
Things like eyes and 747s that couldn't possibly spring into existence in a single lucky shake of a dice can come into existence if the luck is smeared out in many tiny steps and is accumulated.
Science believes that in this accident came this perfectly working earth with human life and with people and animals and plants and seasons and days and hours and rotates. I mean, the atmosphere, everything in earth was created perfectly. And I'm telling you, that could never happen through an accident. It had to be by intelligent design. So, dear Mr. Atheist, who really has to have a lot of faith today to believe in their theory? I believe in God because I've experienced him, I've felt him, but most of all, while driving through Yellowstone and Montana and so many of these natural reserves this week and looking at animals and looking at life, I don't know, I just can't look at all of that creation and say that it was an accident. I have to say that creation has a creator. And one final thought. Well, the word universe, you believe in a Big Bang, but when I look at the word universe, it means una, which is one or singular. That's Latin, universe. Verse means a spoken statement. So universe is one single spoken statement. I dare you to read Genesis 1. And in the beginning, God said, let there be. All God had to do was speak one single spoken statement and boom, the universe. God bless. I dare you, if you believe in God, if you believe that all of this stuff is nonsense and you have enough faith to stand up and say, I still believe in creationism, I still believe in a God that reigns above all, then I ask you to take a moment and click share. Click share below or on the side of this video. And if you're not my friend already on Facebook, click my name at the top of this video and let's be friends. But guys, it's time for us to stand up, get loud, and get proud. Why do we let evolutionary quote-unquote science work its way into middle schools and preschools and colleges and universities around the world? That's nonsense. It takes too much faith to believe that junk. And yet, I say it's time for us to begin to believe in intelligent design, believe in God. As always, like and comment below. I want to hear your thoughts on this. God bless. Have a very, very beautiful day.
Note that for this second video, I decided to cut out the second part since he stops giving arguments against evolution.
Guys, it's Josh Feuerstein here, so let's not only destroy and debunk evolution, but I want to show you that it actually takes more faith to believe in evolution than it does to actually believe in God. So here we go. You see, evolution tells us that we're the product of the evolving of a protein molecule that happened by accident or by simple chance. And yet even science would say that that chance is 1 in the 10 to the 243rd power. That's 10 with 243 zeros after it.
I was actually not able to find a reputable scientific source that provides this figure.
Now that's a number that we can't even begin to comprehend, but allow me to try to break it down for you. That's like if everybody in the world played the lottery, that's your chances of hitting the lottery 1 trillion times in a row. How ridiculous of a number is that? And if even we were able to believe that somehow life sprang out of that accident, well, there's the law of cause and effect, which means that the universe that we live in is an effect, but out of what cause? It has to have a cause. I would argue that that cause is God.
Scientists are still working on how the universe came about, and they even have some possible leads. Scientists do not profess to know everything, but they are always looking to answer the questions of life. If he wants to use causality against the Big Bang, then the very same argument can be applied to God.
Now, if somehow that protein molecule was able to evolve and evolution was able to somehow come into being, that means that now that monkey would become man. But let me just ask you this. If evolution is an ongoing process, why do we not see any half-human, half-apes today? Wouldn't monkeys still be evolving into man? And wouldn't we see those around us that hadn't quite caught up to us yet? And yet, evolution has no answer for that.
By half-human, half-ape, I'll assume he means something akin to this picture of a chimpanzee slowly turning into a human. This is a misconception based on the thought that chimpanzees are less evolved humans or that we descend directly from them. The truth of the matter is that we share a common ancestor, as shown with this accurate tree. That isn't to say that humans suddenly evolved from that ancestor. It was a gradual process which is shown in this picture. It is also important to note that humans are apes. All of Josh's arguments against evolution were based in ignorance. The evidence for evolution is strong, and only a person who doesn't understand what it entitles would deny it. I say that you cannot refute something if you aren't at least aware of the basic principles of the thing that you wish to disprove, which Josh is clearly not. The University of California, Berkeley has a great website that explains the basics of evolution. If you have any lingering doubts about what has been said in this discussion today, you should definitely check it out.